I came home to find strangers living in my house. My parents said family comes first. What happened next cost them far more than they expected. I bought my first house when I was 29. Nothing fancy. 3 bedrooms, small backyard, quiet neighborhood. But it was mine. I worked overtime for years to afford it. Every extra shift, every missed vacation, every sacrificed weekend. It all went into that house. My younger brother Kyle took a different path. Kyle never kept a job or long. He jumped from one business idea to another. Every failure somehow became someone else's responsibility. Usually my parents. Growing up, Kyle was always the favorite. If he made a mistake, he got help. If I made a mistake, I got a lecture. Some things never change. 2 years later, my company sent me to Texas for a 6-week project. Before leaving, I asked my parents to check on the house occasionally. Water plant, collect mail, simple stuff. They happily agreed. 5 weeks into the project, everything seemed normal. Then I came home. The first thing I noticed was a strange SUV in my driveway, then another, then a minivan. I assumed someone was visiting. I was wrong. When I opened my front door, a woman I had never seen before was standing in my kitchen. 3 children were watching television in my living room. Someone else's family photo sat on my fireplace. For a moment, I thought I had entered the wrong house. Then the woman asked, "Can I help you?" I stared at her. This is my house. Her face immediately changed. She looked confused, then nervous. A few minutes later, I learned the truth. My parents had given Kyle permission to move in. Kyle had given permission for his girlfriend's family to move in too. Apparently, everyone assumed I wouldn't mind. After all, family comes first. That was my mother's exact response when I called her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You gave people access to my house?" Mom sighed. "Kyle needed help. So you gave him my house temporarily." The problem was, nobody had asked me. Not once. I drove straight to my parents' house. Kyle was already there. Dad looked annoyed. Mom looked defensive. Kyle looked comfortable, like he expected me to accept it. Then Dad said the sentence that ended everything. "You're being selfish." I actually laughed. My own house had been taken over, and somehow I was the problem. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Then I called the police. Turns out ownership paperwork doesn't care about family feelings. Within days, formal notices were delivered. The strangers left first, then Kyle, then everyone else. My parents were furious. Relatives started calling. Apparently, I had embarrassed the family. Nobody seemed concerned about what happened to me. Then something interesting happened. While reviewing documents, my lawyer discovered my parents had signed paperwork, pretending they had authority over the property. Nothing criminal, but enough to create legal problems. A lot of legal problems. Especially when Kyle used my address to secure loans he couldn't repay. Suddenly, banks started asking questions. Then lawyers started asking questions. Then creditors started asking questions. The mess got bigger every week. For the first time in years, my parents couldn't protect Kyle from consequences. 6 months later, Kyle filed for bankruptcy. A year later, my parents sold their vacation cabin to cover legal expenses and debt connected to him. The same cabin they always promised would stay in the family forever. The irony wasn't lost on me. A few months after that, Mom called. She sounded exhausted. We were only trying to help. I looked around my living room, the one they gave away without asking. Then I answered, "You weren't helping family." "What do you mean?" "You were helping Kyle." The silence lasted several seconds, because deep down, she knew I was right. That was 3 years ago. Kyle still blames me. My parents still think I overreacted. The house is still mine, and nobody has asked for a spare key since.